How many times are you going to let life play you before you finally play it back? Because the truth is, every time you stay silent, settle for less, or shrink to fit, you're not being loyal, you're being used. And the game, it's been running on you long enough. It's time to wake up, wise up, and walk different. Let me paint this picture for you. You ever walked into a room and felt like something was off? You didn't know what it was, couldn't quite name it, but deep down in your gut, something whispered, "You're not in control here." That's the game. See, most people don't realize they're in one, because the game doesn't look like a game. It's dressed up real nice. Clean lines, flashy colors, distractions on every corner. It's in your feed, in your music, in your morning routine, in the conversations you have with people who don't want to see you grow. The game says, don't think too hard. Just go with the flow. Do what everyone else is doing. But here's the truth. Flow leads to nowhere. The game is designed to keep you numb, to keep you scrolling while your potential goes stale, to make you chase things that don't belong to you. That house, that car, that status, that approval. I'll never have to do it again. You're out here getting played like a pawn on somebody else's chessboard because you haven't asked yourself the hard question. Who's really making the moves in my life? You think you're choosing, but comfort chose for you. Fear chose for you. The trauma you never healed from, that chose for you too. And the people running this game, they're not playing checkers, they're playing chess. While you keep trading your time for cheap entertainment, they're building empires off your attention. While you second-guess your greatness, they're selling you distractions labeled as dreams. Wake up. You keep thinking life is just happening to you. But what's really happening is this. You're letting it happen. You're in the passenger seat of your own life. And every time you say, I'm just figuring it out, what you're really saying is, I've surrendered the wheel. Listen. The game doesn't need you awake. They want you tired. They want you overwhelmed. They want you comparing yourself to everybody online. So you never stop long enough to hear your own voice. But you've got to rise above the noise. You've got to see through the glitter, the filters, the lies. You've got to stop moving just because something is moving. Because not all motion is progress. Not all movement is momentum. Let me tell you, there's power in pausing. There's wisdom in awareness. And the moment you see the game for what it is the moment you stop being its puppet. You weren't born to be played. You were born to play your own hand. With strategy, with clarity, with conviction. But that starts with waking up. No more half-stepping. No more waiting for the right mood, the right people, the right moment. Right now, this very breath you're taking is your cue to stop being played, to get back in the driver's seat, to own your life like your name is written on every inch of it, because it is. Let me tell you something that's going to sting a little. Being a fool costs more than you think. And I'm not just talking about money. No. It costs you time, the most precious thing you'll never get back. It costs you energy, the life force that's meant to build your dreams. And it costs you your dignity, that quiet sense of self-respect that tells the world, I know who I am. But the worst part, you usually don't feel the cost until it's too late, until you're staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., wondering why you feel so empty, until you're sitting in your car, parked outside somewhere you don't even want to be, asking yourself, how did I get here? You feel that knot in your chest, not from pain someone gave you, but from pain you allowed. See, when you're out here playing the fool, trusting people who've shown you they can't be trusted, giving second, third, fourth chances to folks who barely deserve the first. You're not being kind, you're not being loyal, you're being used. And let me say it plain, people will only treat you how you train them to. If you keep showing up after being disrespected, if you keep answering calls from people who only dial your number when they need something, if you keep shrinking yourself to fit in rooms that can't hold your truth, you are signing up to be played. And they will keep playing you. Because why wouldn't they? You've made it easy. We love to talk about real ones, about how we're solid, about how we ride or die. But let me ask you this. Who are you being solid for? Who are you riding for that would leave you walking? Don't confuse loyalty with self-abandonment. There's a difference between being supportive and being a doormat with a heartbeat. And sometimes, the biggest fool is the one who knows better, but keeps choosing less. I've been that person. I've worn that smile to cover my disappointment. I've stayed in rooms where the love was conditional, where respect had to be earned over and over again, like a bill I forgot to pay. And every time I stayed longer than I should have, every time I silenced my own voice just to keep the peace, I chipped away at my own reflection until I could barely recognize the man in the mirror. That's the real cost. You start losing you, piece by piece. And the saddest part is nobody notices. Because the world doesn't pay attention when you lose yourself, only when you finally stop pretending. So don't sit here and say it's not that deep. It is that deep. When you know your worth but don't act like it, when you see the signs but choose to ignore them, you're not being strong. You're being stubborn and you're suffering. And suffering is optional when self-respect is on the table. You want to change your life? Start by refusing to be the fool in your own story. You've played that role long enough. You know, there's a kind of power that shows up the moment you finally remember who you are. Not who they told you to be, not who you had to become to survive, but who you were before the world got its hands on you. See, the world is loud. It's got all these voices telling you what you should be. You should look like this, talk like that, chase this job, settle for that relationship, be nice, be quiet, be humble. But if you're not careful, you'll spend your whole life trying to live up to a version of yourself that's just a watered-down echo of your truth. And then you wake up one day, look in the mirror, and realize the reflection staring back at you is someone you don't even recognize. You don't know where your fire went. You don't know why you're tired all the time. You just know something doesn't feel right. That's what happens when you forget your worth. When you put yourself on sale, hoping someone will finally take you seriously. When you tolerate disrespect and call it patience. When you confuse being needed with being loved. And little by little, you trade your crown for crumbs until your soul is starving in a house that looks full from the outside. Let me tell you something, and I want you to feel this in your bones. You were never meant to beg for love. You were never meant to audition for belonging. You were never meant to explain your greatness to people committed to misunderstanding you. You are not too much. You are not too loud, too emotional, too ambitious, too intense. You're just in the wrong rooms, with people who haven't earned the right to witness your fullness. You've got to reclaim your identity, because when you forget who you are, you start believing lies. You start thinking you need fixing when all you needed was to be seen. You start believing you're hard to love when really you've just been around people who didn't know how. You start settling for halfway love, halfway effort, halfway living, when you were born to live all in. You were crafted with intention. There's not a single thing about you that's accidental. Your quirks, your scars, your story, it all matters. But you've got to stop living like you're disposable, because when you treat yourself like an afterthought, the world will gladly agree with you. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself, by the boundaries you hold, by the standards you refuse to lower, by the love you give yourself when nobody else is watching. So the next time you're tempted to shrink just to fit, The next time you're about to say yes when everything in you screams no, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, I am not here to be chosen. I am here to choose. Choose yourself every single time, because you're not here to prove your worth. You're here to live it. You know, a lot of folks out here are chasing information, thinking that's the key. Reading books, watching videos, quoting affirmations. And don't get me wrong, knowledge is beautiful. But there's a difference between knowing something and living like you believe it. There's a difference between being smart and being wise. See, being smart is about knowing the rules. But wisdom is about knowing when to break them. Wisdom is quiet. It doesn't need to announce itself. It's that still voice inside you that whispers, this ain't it. But the problem is, we've gotten so good at ignoring that voice. We hear it, but we keep going anyway. We make excuses, we justify. We pray for signs when the truth is already screaming at us. How many times have you gone back to something or someone that broke you, thinking maybe this time it'll be different? Maybe they've changed. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. You weren't being sensitive, you were being self-aware. You just didn't trust yourself enough to act on it, and that's what keeps you stuck. Not a lack of options, not bad luck, but the refusal to let go of what's familiar. Because sometimes the fool in us is addicted to comfort, even if that comfort is killing us slowly. Wisdom requires you to see things clearly, to stop falling for potential and start judging patterns, to stop fantasizing about what could be and accept what is. And the moment you start doing that, the moment you get real with yourself and stop dressing up dysfunction in hope, that's the moment everything starts to change. You stop chasing people who only show up when it's convenient. You stop explaining your boundaries to people committed to crossing them. You stop walking into places that don't nourish your spirit just because you're scared of being alone. Let me tell you something. Alone is not a punishment. Alone is where wisdom is born. It's in the silence that you finally hear what life's been trying to teach you. It's when you stop moving, stop talking, stop performing, and sit with, that's when clarity kicks in. And once you wise up, you level up. You start moving different, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. You're no longer available for drama. You're no longer flattered by breadcrumbs. You're no longer impressed by loud people with empty intentions. You become intentional with your time, your energy, your love. You start guarding your peace like it's gold, because it is. You realize not every invitation deserves your yes. Not every argument deserves your voice. Not every opportunity is meant for your journey. That's wisdom. It's restraint. It's self-trust. It's being able to walk away without needing applause, without needing to prove a point, because you know who you are and what you're worth. And the real beauty, when you live from wisdom, you don't have to chase what's meant for you. You just make space, and it comes. Now here's where it all comes to a head, because talk is easy. Growth, that's another story. You've heard the truth, maybe you've even felt it deep in your chest. But the question is, what are you going to do about it? Because awareness without action is just regret waiting to happen. It's not enough to know better. You got to do better. You got to get up from the place that's been holding you back. Even if you've been there so long it started feeling like home. That version of you, the one who keeps settling, who keeps doubting, who keeps dancing for people that wouldn't even clap if you caught fire, that version has served its time. It's exhausted. And truth be told, you're exhausted from carrying it. There comes a moment when you can't shrink anymore without disappearing. When staying silent hurts more than speaking up. When sitting still feels like drowning. That's the moment where you stand up. You show up for yourself. Not just when it's easy. Not just when people are watching. But in the dark, in the quiet, when you feel like giving up, and nobody would even notice if you did. That's when it matters most. That's when your next chapter is written. You don't need to wait for someone to choose you. You don't need a green light from the people who never believed in you to begin with. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. Because let's be honest, most breakthroughs don't come with comfort. They come with discomfort. They come with risk. They come with you staring fear in the face and walking anyway. The life you want is not going to show up while you're still playing small. It's not going to appear while you're stuck in cycles you've outgrown. You can't pray for peace and still entertain chaos. You can't ask for healing while sleeping next to the wound. It's time to decide. Decide to stop answering to your old self. Decide to stop explaining your growth to people who liked you better broken. Decide that from this day forward, you will not tolerate anything that doesn't align with who you are becoming. Because your future, it's not waiting for your potential. It's waiting for your permission. And the moment you give it fully, unapologetically, that's when the ground starts to shift. That's when the doors open. That's when the weight lifts. You've waited long enough. You've cried long enough. You've been quiet, polite, humble, small, long enough. Now it's your turn. Not to be loud, not to be flashy, but to be real, to be present, to be free. No more half-living. No more waiting on signs. No more repeating the same tired story. Stand up. Show up. Take the pen back. Your life's not over. It's just getting started. And this time, you're writing it on your terms. So now here we are. You've heard it. Not just words, but truth. Truth you felt in your chest. Truth that hit a little too close. Truth that called something in you higher. And I didn't come here to entertain you. I came here to wake you up. Because you've been sleepwalking through a life that was never meant to be lived. Small. You've been surviving, but you were born to build. You've been reacting, but it's time to start responding. You've been played, but it's time to play to win. Let them think you changed. Let them say you switched up. Let them whisper, because what they're really seeing is someone who finally remembered who they are. You don't owe anyone an apology for choosing yourself. You don't owe anyone a warning before you rise. You don't have to beg for a seat at the table. Build your own table. Then sit at the head of it like the royalty you are. This is your moment to stop being the fool, to stop getting played, to stop waiting for permission, to stop explaining your fire to people still living in the cold. And if no one told you today, let me be the first. You are enough. You are capable. You are called. And you've already wasted enough time pretending not to be. So get up, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Get up and move like you mean it. Talk like you believe it. Live like you own it. Because this life is not a rehearsal. It's the main stage. And it's your name on the marquee now. No more playing small. No more playing dumb. No more playing dead. Stop getting played. Stop being a fool. And start walking like the game's over. Because it is. You just won.